piece we're going to be watching videos of just some of the achievements of this Labour government over the last 5 years.
Today, Cabinet approved an increase to paid parental leave.
The State House sell-off has been halted by the new government as part of its 100-day plan.
Pumping money into training schemes will help get thousands of young people in the regions into jobs, according to the new Employment Minister.
The government's vowing to get young people off the dole and into jobs, especially in areas like construction where there's a worker shortage.
Today, the government is phasing out single-use plastic shopping bags over the next year.
Parliament last night voted to ban foreigners who are not residents of New Zealand from purchasing houses or property, farms, that sort of thing here.
Today I'm announcing that New Zealand will ban all military-style semi-automatic weapons. We will also ban all assault rifles.
$1.9 billion being spent on mental health, a record spend on mental health.
Yet today we have made a choice that I am proud of, that will leave a legacy, and that I hope means the next generation will see that we in New Zealand were on the right side of history.
Since we made all apprenticeships free in July this year, there have been almost 14,000 new apprentices signing up nationwide, which is an increase from about 7,500 in the same period last year.
The government today announcing a $25 million fund, which will see 300,000 students get free mental health services.
The unemployment rates reached a new record, the lowest since records began.
From June this year, period pads and tampons will be available at all schools and kura around the country free of charge.
From April next year, benefits will go up from between $32 and $55 per person per week, depending on the benefit. That includes a $20 a week boost for all beneficiaries that kicks in 6 weeks.
If you buy a new EV, you'll be eligible for more than $8,500, while purchasers of second-hand EVs will get almost $3,500 back.
We've created now over 8,000 public housing spaces.
Here in Aotearoa, New Zealand's rainbow community is celebrating after a bill banning conversion therapy practices passed its third reading in Parliament last night.
The government have announced that public transport will be half price for 3 months from April 1st.
The government has just announced it'll slash fuel taxes by 25 cents a litre from midnight tonight.
This is a landmark day for New Zealand with these emissions reduction plans.
Come Friday, our 20 district health boards will be gone. 2 brand new entities, Health NZ and the Māori Health Authority, will take charge.
We have added 10,000 more public homes, accompanied by record high building consents.
It is about the most basic and long-standing of Kiwi values. The value of a fair go.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Talofa lava, malolo lei, whakalofa lahi atu, malo ni nisa bulavanako, kia ora ana. And to coin a phrase, warm Pacific greetings to you all. I don't know about you, but watching that, it's easy to feel potentially just a little bit weary, but also really invigorated, because we are only just getting started. What a pleasure it is to be here in Tamaki Makaurau, but especially here in South Auckland, gateway to the Pacific. And as Peter William Seal would say, well, he would say many things, but the short version is home of world champions. I want to start with a few acknowledgements. Firstly, to our outgoing Labour President, thank you, Claire. Your time in the role feels like it has flown by, probably not for you. But in amongst it, you have had to deal with some incredibly difficult but also incredibly important issues for us as a Labour Party. You are a person of great integrity. You leave the party in a stronger position, and we are most grateful to you for what you have sacrificed to do that. We thank you. To our incoming President, Jill Day, you bring a wealth of knowledge, experience and enthusiasm, and we are very lucky to have you. No mai, haere mai. To our tireless Labour Council, each time we gather together, I'm constantly reminded of the good people who serve our party, and I thank you too. And to our Deputy Labour leader, Kelvin Davis, our Deputy Prime Minister, and to all of our Labour ministers and caucus, what an incredible team you are. Now, to those of you who aren't based here, welcome to tropical Tamaki Makaurau. Your time here in Auckland with your colleagues, family, friends and party members, I hope and I know will be a fruitful one. But to our most important group of all, our Labour members. I've been the Prime Minister for 5 years now, but I've been a Labour member for 25. At least you need reminding that is more than half my life. And because I started as a volunteer, delivering flyers, door knocking, helping coordinate volunteers, that is how I know and appreciate that you are the ones that bring us here into government. And that has long been the case. Many of you will know that Norman Kirk is a great hero of mine. It feels fitting to reflect on him this evening. After all, it's 50 years ago that he was in government. Now that feels astounding to me, because even though I was too young to know him as a Prime Minister, we have all been impacted by his legacy. Just as he built his own house of concrete blocks years before, he began the work of rebuilding a nation block by block in 1972. Sweat, vision, drive, necessity, housing for people, healthcare for the people, full employment and equal opportunity for all. Having left school early to bring an income home, he would later introduce the domestic purposes benefit for sole parents to care for their children, ever mindful that the early years produce the adult of later years. People were put back at the heart of government. New Zealand Day, later to become Waitangi Day, was introduced as a public holiday to represent the importance of a collective national identity. But the imperative first and foremost was to accelerate economic recovery. Inflation was high, and so wages had to be lifted. Infrastructure was ramped up. Homes were built. Beneficiaries were given a Christmas bonus to assist with the cost of living pressures. The beginnings of superannuation, as we know it, were fought for. A diplomatic hand was stretched out to China, the beginning of our significant export growth. What does the future hold for a country if you do not stand firm in the face of adversity, of challenge, of common threat? The answer for a small trading country like ours was no future at all. And so Kirk declared our foreign policy would mirror our national interests. He stood up against nuclear testing in the Pacific and South African apartheid. He brought us closer to our neighbour Australia through passport-free travel. He was, as the song would say about him, a man of great labour. He worked incredibly hard. And he did all of this and so much more in his prime ministership of 1 year and 8 months before he died in office. In that small amount of time, he laid many of the foundations we consider important in the New Zealand we know today. Despite the challenges of the day, the impending oil shock, inflation, he invested in our kids, our families, their homes, their jobs, their good health, their education, their right to retirement. He did what Labour governments do. And he made progress for New Zealand despite the challenges of the day. And 50 years later, that remains the way Labour governments govern. And that is why we are all here. Tonight we have the chance to honour Norman Kirk with a special event at this conference, an exhibition by John Miller. But tonight I also want to dedicate to the people who helped get Kirk, Longy, Clark, Savage, Fraser, all those into the privilege of high office and the honour of government. I want to acknowledge you. Over the past years, I've met many of you. I've seen you purchase countless tea towels, and we have more on sale this Labour conference. We have talked, we have laughed, we've hugged pre-COVID, we've elbow bumped during COVID, we hug again post-COVID, and now we enter the next phase, an election year. For those outside of a political party, I have no doubt that there will be an assumption that an election is all about the battle itself, but we know it's not. The vast majority of us did not get into politics for the sport. We're not here for the back and forth of the House. We don't endlessly debate remits for fun. At least not most of us. We are here because we genuinely believe that politics is a place where you can make positive change and that Labour represents that. And so this weekend, is our time to plan again for the unexpected, but also the things that motivate us into politics in the first place too. To reflect on what we've done, and we've done much, but also on what needs to be done. To refresh and rejuvenate for the year ahead. To remember why we are Labour. So after 5 years of progress, let's keep going. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.